Hey, everybody. Really excited for this conversation today with a global tech, AI, and innovation powerhouse at Synechron. Tim, how are you?
Hey, everyone. Very nice to meet you. Very well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for joining. We have some really fascinating topics about the future of AI in the enterprise and more. Before that, maybe you could introduce yourself, your role at Synechron, and for those who may not be familiar, give us a thumbnail sketch.
Sure. My name is Tim Jennings. I work for I lead the global data practice here at Synechron. What that means in practical terms, here at Synechron, we are a larger financial services consulting organization and service provider. I'm working with certainly all of the top 10, and actually in the last 6 months or so, I've probably met 70 or 80 different financial services organizations, working and talking with them about data. So we're interested in the problems they're trying to solve, the approaches they're taking, the ways that we can help them, obviously, and the outcomes that they're seeing. So we have a pretty unique sort of vision of that across the market of financial services right now.
Well, unique perspective indeed. And talk about your practice and some of the challenges you help clients with, particularly in the data science sphere. And, one critical topic I know top of mind to all of us is high quality data
Mhm.
and the data that's necessary to implement all of these fabulous AI applications and schemes that we're so excited about.
Sure. Data for AI really is a challenge. I mean, we're all used to the notion of quality data. Um, you know, Historically, that's meant precision, it's meant accuracy, it's meant consistency. But when you get into the world of AI, that pivots away, it changes. And so the new considerations that come in are really around fitness for purpose. So your data may well be precise, accurate, and consistent, but it may not be fit for purpose. And the examples for that, for me, the hardest ones to spot are where the coverage isn't right. So, for example, if you are working in a bank and the data you're using is the cohort of information of your clients, you are automatically excluding information about people who you have not accepted as a client or have not applied to be a client for you. If you're working with data that's coming from an application or a social media site, you're missing, each one of those has its own profile, and you're missing all the people who don't use, say, Facebook or Instagram or whatever. That coverage element is really important. When you're trying to draw inference from data sets, it's important that you don't assume that what you've got is everything. It may be quality data, but it needs to be fit for purpose. Obviously, there are other issues in there, things like bias. I mean, we're probably all aware now of examples like the Amazon CV sifter from probably 10 years ago now, where they train an AI on the outcomes of the CVs that had come into them and who had been hired. And what they discovered was that there was an inherent bias in that training set, which was towards male coders. And so the ML was discarding women out of hand. It was never used live, I hasten to add. But that's a sort of problem that can exist. You can easily, if you use data that's not fit for purpose, you can introduce bias, you can introduce gaps in your understanding. These all become serious problems. However, I think there's a flip side to that, which is that with the use, particularly of generative AI, a whole lot of new data becomes accessible to us in a way that it really, really wasn't before. And it's not data that fits crisply into that quality data definition.
Mm.
So we're able now to navigate a vast array of websites. We're able to search for ideas on websites. We're able to qualify things by sentiment. We're able to take conflicting information and bring it together and use the ML and AI to organize that and give us a perspective on not facts necessarily, but dimensions and how to assess all of that. So I think AI brings in a problem. It brings in a problem around making sure that you're able to get a quality decision, a quality piece of insight from good data. But it also brings in the ability and the capability of mapping into all these other data sources, which have previously been very, very hard to use, and certainly hard to use quickly. So I think that's a really interesting space to be in right now. It is working out how people can use that data properly, what controls they need to have, what care they need to take with it, but what new opportunities are coming out as well.
Yeah, well, those are some big picture items. And as you drill down deeper, what are some of the other common data related challenges you see within those global organizations that need help with?
There's all the normal ones you would expect to see, particularly in regulated industries, around literally the quality of data, around the compliance of that data, around the lineage of that data. But I think if we take a step back from that a little bit and look at the themes, the thematic problems that exist, what everyone's trying to do, in my experience, is to manage to bring together data which is across all of the various different parts of their business. It might be that you want to join finance information with sales information, with product information. It might be in an investment bank, you're trying to join up different lines of business, different asset classes information. Trying to see what your clients are doing across all the various different parts of your business. And that data isn't static, for one thing. It's always changing in all of those different stovepipes. It's not designed to work together. So people don't build it so it can be joined. They build it so they can use it for their purpose. And there's there's the whole world of unstructured data which supports all of that. So most organizations are working hard to try and build the analytics capability that they need by trying to join these together. And what we see is there are levels of maturity there. So a small organization can do that reasonably straightforwardly by building a data warehouse. Bigger organizations go to lakes and lake houses, and bigger organizations yet go into the sort of data product, data mesh route, so that they can try and solve those problems. But that is the issue, is trying to get that data together. When you talk to data scientists about their day job, they will tell you that 80% of their time is spent finding and manipulating data, not looking for insights, not running models, not doing the sexy clever stuff that they're trained for. It's finding and manipulating data. And that's the big kind of anchor that everyone's dragging around with them as they try to get insights from these data sets that they're all supporting.
Got it. And speaking of anchors, we call those tech sprawl or tech debt. There are some banks that have been operating continuously for hundreds of years. That's not the norm, but certainly there's a lot of legacy. How does that impact data management strategies from your perspective?
Oh, that's huge. I mean, one of the things that we spend a lot of time doing for clients is actually just trying to map out where that tech debt exists and give them strategies for dealing with it. What do we mean by tech debt, tech sprawl? It's the uncontrolled proliferation of technology. So you will often find, if you're looking at different business lines, you'll find they've implemented the same function in different technology. So you might find multiple CRM systems, multiple client data systems, multiple trading systems. One of the things that we spend a lot of time doing is mapping that out and saying, okay, here are your business processes, down one side of a diagram. Here's all the systems that you have which are supporting that business process in a line, and you can see how much duplication there is that goes on there. And from a data perspective, that becomes a problem. I mean, as I was talking earlier about the difficulty of joining those data sources together. But if you've got multiple points of mastering, it's very difficult then to navigate the silos to get the data out of them. You've got different tech in terms of mainframes, client server solutions, API-driven solutions, SQL-driven solutions. There's all sorts of different ways of getting to that data. Again, they're not designed typically to work together. This becomes a practical problem. So some of the organizations we work with monetize their data, they sell their data. And the experience they have is that because each of their data products can be built on a slightly different cycle, on a slightly different source, using maybe different source applications, although the mastering location could be the same. What they find is that the data products they sell don't necessarily align even with themselves because of timing considerations, for example, because of the basis of the data, the grain of the data might be different for different purposes. But a client who's buying 2, 3, 4 products from these people find they don't necessarily fit together very well, and that's a problem everyone's trying to solve. And it's a problem that you see it there because you're buying it from a vendor, but you see it much worse inside of organizations when you try and reconcile data sources around an organization to get to a common view. That's a very common experience. There's this myriad of different technical solutions. It's difficult to get the right data out of it. It's also incredibly difficult to manage it. You think about the number of skills involved. Think about how hard it is to come up with a common and consistent view. Which is just not to say, by the way, that one size fits all. I wouldn't be a proponent of trying to build a single unifying data model, data universe that every client fits into. That doesn't work either. So somewhere between the two, you come up with an answer. And I'm sure we'll go on and talk about it. There are strategies now looking at how people can manage that kind of that proliferation, that differential of data, and still provide the information and insight they need to drive analytics.
Got it. And so enter Synechron. How do you exactly help clients in addressing these data challenges, quality issues, and more?
Sure. So we're a service company. We're a full service company. We do everything from strategy to execution and build to operate. But I think what differentiates us is actually the innovation, the innovative mindset that we bring. We work deeply in my world in data. There are other practices as well working similarly. But for example, I was talking about some of the problems of that different mastering paradigms that we see in organizations. We are working at the moment on an agentic AI solution, which we can demo to clients, which shows how you can use that to navigate the variety of different data sources that exist, to disambiguate the data, to say, okay, so these two systems both call, a contract over here and a contract over here are actually two very different things potentially. We can disambiguate that, and we can then create data sets and give you tools to do discovery on, to do query on, to do visualization on, to do predictive analytics on, to do anomaly detection on, entity resolution. There's a whole load of things you can then do once you've isolated the data using AI and machine learning as the driving characteristic of that. So what does Synechron do? We because of the breadth of vision, because we understand what's happening inside of our clients, because we know that the problems they're trying to solve, we are looking at innovative ways that we can take our skills, particularly our AI skills, our data skills, machine learning skills, and use those to construct not products. We don't build products. We're not a product organization, but we build accelerators and we build tools and solutions and approaches that we literally give them to our clients, and help them then integrate those and build them out to be the custom thing that fits inside their organization to solve the particular problems that they have got. AI for data is one example. We have others as people. We haven't really talked about data products yet. We'll come on to that, I think, when we talk about the trends. But in the data product space, we've got tools there which are looking at things like observability, things like a marketplace for data so that people can find data. We're just turning our attention now to data contracts as a way of making those feeds reliable. How do I make sure that having found the data I want as an analyst, I can then get it to my application every day in a reliable way, so I can bake that into my business process. All of that is part of what we do. We also, of course, we work with our clients, so we'll right from the very beginning workshop with them around what problems they're trying to solve, what are the best technology approaches. We've got best practice, we've got depth of experience across a whole range of different solution styles and areas of data. I think it goes from governance and management of data through architecture and engineering of data and into the analytics space. We've got everything from data governance experts to data scientists, architects and engineers. So all of that comes with it, but we try and wrap around that a level of sort of, if you like, care for the client, which is around problem solving and bringing innovative solutions to the problems that we see at clients.
Fantastic. And speaking of which, how do you start with a new engagement? What are the typical steps, on the front end to leverage these data assets? How does an engagement typically roll out?
Yeah. So typically we would start with a workshop. So in fact, funny enough, I was talking with a client just yesterday about setting up one of these for them in New York, where we can go through a number of the ideas. So there are emerging ideas and themes that exist in the data space. So data products is certainly one of those. AI for data users is another. Let's talk about data products briefly, because that was the question that came up yesterday. So the idea behind a data product to try and solve this problem of federated mastering is that if you have those federated masters produce a product, which is like any other product, it's labeled, it's understood, it has a purpose, it has an ingredients list, it has a sell by date, it has an owner, you know where it's come from, you know what the origin is. If your product has all these characteristics and it's designed to integrate with other products in your organization, then you're beginning to solve the problem of how do I deal with this federated mastering mismatch of data styles. So what does that mean? Well, there's a whole lot of ideas that live behind that. There's a lot of things you have to have in place behind that, both governance and technology. And so we would sit down with our client. We would take them through the sort of rationale behind it. Here's what you're trying to achieve. Here are the components you're going to have to think about from a governance and control perspective. How do you master this, maintain this, manage this? How do you put the guardrails around it to make sure it does what you need? Plus, what technology are you going to need? How are you going to make it available to people? How are you going to put technology controls around it? How are you going to service this up so that it's useful for the consumers? And then from that kind of baseline of this is the theory. Theory is great. You then need to map that into what you find at the client site. So what's the reality that they're dealing with? What's really the problem in their organization? It's never one size fits all. So the next phase would normally be going into really understand what's happening in the organization. Why is it that the ambition they have is difficult to realize? What are the constraints that are holding them back? And then from there we can build a roadmap and come up with a solution. So that's kind of the typical way we would approach that sort of an engagement.
Well done. And how do you think about breaking down sort of data silos? Most organizations I've worked for, big organizations from Oracle to Intel and others, are very siloed. And despite best efforts to knock down walls, it's a real challenge. How do you think about that in a data context?
So I think the data products are part of the answer to that, because they allow you to expose the good bit of the silo, the prepared, the accessible bit of the silo. I think the approach that we're taking, like I said, data keeps moving, and you need a way of exposing it and mapping it that's flexible, that blends with the data. And that's what we're building into that AI accelerator, so that you effectively have a map between the conceptual idea of the data. What is a contract for finance? What is a contract for trading? Different things, different concepts, but you can map that, you can explain that, and if you can model from there down to where it's realized, then actually you can ask a question at the model level. You can say, show me all the contracts, all the financial services contracts, not the finance contracts, and you can, we've proven this, bring that data back from a variety of different platforms all at once. So suddenly you can begin to talk to your data all at once. It's a really quite exciting area of use case for AI, an area for exploration at the moment. So it's blending a number of ideas around knowledge graphs, around data as a product, obviously, around LLM, around agentic AI to give you the logic, the toolkit to do it. And I think future state might also include, just based on the way that agentic AI works, might also include using data APIs as a way of interfacing into AI and generative AI queries as well. So I think there's lots of ways of beginning to bring the data up to a level where it's visible to one of those AI tools, so you can ask the question in a way that makes sense. The real issue, the real problem with it is scaling it to an enterprise level, and that's what we're working on now. You can do it in the small. We can demonstrate that. Doing it in the big, doing it at the scale of a multinational corporation, irrespective of industry, is going to be a challenge. But we're working on that right now. So it's an exciting area.
It is exciting, and it's a golden age of data, for sure. But how do you think about aligning that data with business goals? Of course, the C-suite are reading all the Wall Street Journal headlines, how amazing AI and Gen AI are, and yet they're challenged by their internal data strategy and aligning that with business objectives. So I guess you have to wear your consultant's hat from time to time to help align those two goals.
So that's a really interesting question. What we see, if we come top down for a second, so if you talk to the C-suite, you talk to them about what they want from their data strategy, the two most common strap lines are, we want to be a data-driven organization. The second one is, we want to achieve data monetization. Generally, there isn't much underneath that. So if you ask, how will you know when you are a data-driven organization, or how much are you planning to monetize your data? Is there a dollar amount you're seeking here? You won't get normally a very crisp answer on that. But if you go to the other end, if you go to the trenches, those phrases are meaningless when you're sitting in the middle of an operations room somewhere. But it's in the trenches where the real problems exist. And if you fix those problems from the ground up and incrementally, you begin to get to exactly what they're talking about. We've got a wonderful example from one of our clients. So it was a client management team we were working with. They wanted to be able to talk to to go and have meetings with their clients on a, sorry, phrase it the other way around. What they wanted to be able to do was to reduce the lead time to having meetings with clients. So they realized they wanted to talk to a client. It would take them 2 weeks to put together a deck to put in front of that client whilst they did all the research and so on. And so they asked us, can we help them to streamline the process of building that deck? Yes, of course we can. We did that using, it was pre-LLMs, although we've done it again since using LLMs, but it was pre-LLMs, so it was NLP processes. And we could build that deck in a much, much shorter time frame than the 2 weeks it was taking them to do it manually. They then said, okay, we go and see our clients based on events. Can you look at the news feeds and tell us when a particular client might benefit from a visit from us? Yeah, we can do that. Sure. And so we built that. And so it was now alerting them that they needed to go and see a client, and it was producing the deck. And then the third question was, okay, you know who the client is, you know what the trigger is. Maybe it's they're refinancing, maybe there's a reorganization, whatever. Can you come up with a recommendation for what sort of products they might be interested in and include that in the deck? Well, yes, we can do that too. And so you've gone from the world where they're frustrated because it's taken them 2 weeks to go and see a client to a world where they're proactively going to see a client with the right materials and with a recommendation. But it wasn't done sort of from a vision from the very beginning. It was done as an incremental set of steps. I think that's generally true. I think you need to build insight, you need to build literacy, you need to build vision and that kind of solving problem mentality in the organization, but you need to build it at the ground level. And then as you start to do these things, they begin to layer up on top of one another. And that's where the value comes.
Amazing anecdote. Great insights. I really appreciate you and your time here. I know you have a busy schedule. What are you looking forward to the rest of the year? Probably lots of travel and client meetings and maybe some events. What's on your radar?
I'm at Big Data Belfast next week. So that's the next event. I think I'm in New York in November. So plenty of travel. Looking to get around and keep busy until the end of year holidays.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for sharing your time and insight, and thanks everyone for listening, watching, sharing. Much appreciated. Take care, Tim.
Brilliant. Thank you.